What's your feeling about this? We're hearing that only 10 of those who voted for the amendments last night will stay strong and vote against the main bill today. But they've all said the reason we wanted these amendments is that without them, this bill simply will not work. And I can see what they're getting at. So do you think that the number to hold their nerve will be as low as 10, or do you think it could reach the magic number of 33 and then the bill fails?
Well, unlike Alicia, I'm not in the Commons this morning, so she's much better placed to judge the mood, and she's been talking to a lot of MPs, and that has given her the indication that it will be quite a minimal rebellion. 10 would be a remarkable result for Downing Street and a huge temporary relief, with the emphasis on the word temporary there, because even if this bill goes through, even if it sails through the Commons today, it has so many more stages with which it has to pass. Ultimately, it has to get through the House of Lords, and there is no way on the planet the House of Lords is going to back this bill. So long and the short, this legislation, I can't see any scenario in which this legislation ever gets onto the statute book. I mean, time is running out. There aren't that many weeks left in which Parliament actually sits. Let's not forget just how long MPs take off on holiday every summer, how long their Easter holidays are, and multiple other breaks between now and the end of term in end of June, July. So I just can't see this coming good for the Prime Minister. And it's a case of just staggering from one hurdle to the next, kind of limping over the hurdles. But at the end, when he finishes, gets towards the finishing line, there's no great victory.
Isabel, do you think that that's partly deliberate because Rishi Sunak wants to be able to say that he's busting a gut and he's doing whatever he can to try to stop the boats, and that he's being held up by rebels in the Commons or the House of Lords, which isn't doing what it should do, and that he can sort of use that as a convenient excuse for having his plans foiled?
I mean, we've heard all this before from the run-up to the election that Boris Johnson staged, where he tried to, and very successfully actually, pitched it as a kind of government and on the side of the people that wanted Brexit versus an establishment that was trying to thwart it. I'll tell you why that won't work, not for a second, when it comes to this issue, because this government has presided over colossal numbers of perfectly legal migrants, and people are very, very, very angry about that. So they can't possibly present themselves. Rishi Sunak cannot possibly present and position himself as some kind of champion of controlling our borders when he has manifestly failed on every measure on that particular policy area. So, yeah, they might try it. Ain't gonna wash.
I mean, it's strange, isn't it, that the situation that Rishi finds himself in is that, he's pressed ahead, full steam ahead with this Rwanda bill, in the full knowledge that these problems would engulf him, really, that there will be rebels, there'll be a hell of a tough passage for it through the Commons, and once it gets lost, kicked around in the upper chamber, the House of Lords, God knows what will happen to it. Why has he done this, do you think? Why has he forged ahead with something he knew would cause him so many problems? And frankly, also, can you assess how much damage you think he's done to himself here?
Well, I think a huge amount of damage, but that, I think, has to be offset against the huge amount of damage and humiliation there would have been in abandoning it. And time and again, politicians prefer to stick with failing plans than they do to acknowledge that they royally messed up in coming up with those plans in the first place. I mean, just look at HS2. We all know that it is a colossal waste of money, billions and billions down the drain, and yet they prefer just to stick with it because unraveling it would be so much worse. So he must have taken a judgment that it just would have been too awful to abandon it. I don't necessarily think that was the right judgment, but he is clinging desperately to the hope that he can somehow pull this off. I mean, ultimately, there is the possibility of using what's called the Parliament Act to overrule the House of Lords if need be. It's a very, very unusual measure to use. And then even if he did that, he'd actually have to make the thing happen and work beyond any other further higher court or authority. So it's really, really desperate stuff. But the government has got nothing else to say on illegal immigration. There is no plan B. There's no other solution to stopping the boats. And he himself made that one of his 5 great electoral tests.
And Isabel, one of the other things we're hearing today about where to house illegal immigrants or asylum seekers brings us back to that old chestnut, the Bibi Stockholm. We remember this was the barge that was going to be one of the great solutions to the housing issues of asylum seekers, and that the Rishi Sunak's government was going to find lots of other similar types of vessels and barges, and this was going to cut the £8 million that they are currently spending every day to accommodate asylum seekers. We're now told today, or we're not told today, we're now led to believe that the Home Office is quietly brushing that one under the carpet, that actually that's no longer a priority because they've realised that the ports that would have to give permission to house these vessels aren't very keen on saying yes.
I mean, honestly, how about maybe we house them on the aircraft carriers? There's 2 of those. They're gigantic. They're sitting doing nothing in Portsmouth at the moment. I mean, the real solution to this is not to have as many illegal and failed asylum seekers languishing around this country in the first place. I mean, we heard today in the Commons, Rishi Sunak was absolutely on the back foot, really humiliated by Sir Keir Starmer, leader of the opposition, because he's literally lost 4,250 of those failed asylum seekers he was hoping to deport. Time and again, the leader of the opposition challenged him to say where those 4,250 are. And time and again, the Prime Minister was unable to deny that the government has literally lost them. So this is a complete shambles. It is a political catastrophe for the government. And in the months that come, the Prime Minister is on absolute cloud cuckoo land if he thinks this is going to get anything other than politically very much worse.
Quick footnote, Isabel. Thanks so much for talking to us all.